Pursuant to the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by advertising such notice in the Home News Tribune, the Asbury Park Press, the Board Office, the schools, and on Cablevision Channel 118 and Verizon Files Channel 24, and by filing such notice with the Township Clerk. This meeting was scheduled for Tuesday, September 19th, 2023. The Board will take formal action on payment of bills and other agenda items. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Giordano. The Old Bridge Township Board of Education acknowledges that the law of this state establishes that members of the public, including members of the board, have the right to record public board meetings using audio or video recording devices, provided that that act of recording does not interfere with the business of this public board meeting. Therefore, the board makes it known that any such recording is to be considered the private recording of the individual and in no manner represents the official record of this board. The board therefore takes no responsibility for such private recording and completely disavows any future use.
Roll call.
Ms. D'Antono?
Present.
Ms. Jodry?
Present.
Ms. Lent? Mr. Marqueta?
Here.
Mr. Slade?
Here.
Mr. Singh? Mr. Solikowski?
Here.
Mr. Weber?
Here.
And Mr. Giordano.
Here.
Quorum exists.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Code of Ethics Corner.
The board member will refer all complaints to the chief administrative officer and act on the complaints at public meetings only after failure of an administrative solution.
Thank you. Approval of minutes, item number 1. Can I have a motion?
Jodry will move.
Weber second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. D'Antono?
Yes.
Ms. Jodry?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
And Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
Okay. And we have our report of student representative to the board.
Hi everyone. I would like to thank the board for giving me this opportunity to speak. My name is Nesty Dog Batsy, and I'm the 2023-2024 school year class president. I'd love to share a few things about myself. I play the trombone for our amazing school band. My favorite subject is math, and I love hanging out with my friends. If you ask them to describe me in one word, definitely be weird, but in like a good way. So the school senate is looking forward to an amazing year. We already started the year strong by greeting our classmates on the first day at the door and handing out beads. We have the bingo night planned, outdoor movie nights, activities during lunch this year, and we're bringing back lock-in February. Next week, the junior and senior class will be having the homecoming dance on Thursday, and the homecoming game will be the next Friday. And of course we can't leave out the freshmen and sophomores, so we'll be having a bingo, like a freshman and sophomore only bingo night on Wednesday. And on October 2nd, our seniors will be heading out to the senior dinner cruise, which will always be a fun night. This month, we're also welcoming German exchange students. We're excited to have them in our classes, and we planned a lot of wonderful excursions for them. Peer retreat. The peer is looking forward to the retreat on the first weekend of October. The marching band, they recently performed in the San Gennaro parade last week. And their competitive season starts next week at Hillsborough High School. The fall comedy has started their rehearsal, and they will perform sometime in November. Fall sports are underway, and they have multiple wins on the board across all teams. We're awaiting the opening of our new media center where the esports team will be competing. And we're also excited about our new student life office where students can go to find out all about what Old Bridge High School has to offer. We're looking forward to an amazing year. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. Thank you. She did a great job. Okay, we have 4 retirees this month. Move the board approve the retirement of the following staff members with deep appreciation for their years of dedicated service to the district. Sandra Grissom, guidance counselor, 40 years. Joseph Maris, school business administrator, board secretary, 11 years. Marlene Steele, director of transportation, 4 years. And Maria Lissy McDivitt, paraprofessional, 12 years. A total of 67 years. Thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to pass the resolution?
D'Antona will move.
Any other discussion?
That's why I'm so low, Joe. I've had the pleasure of working with Joseph Mara for all 11 years that he's been here. I think he's been a superb business person for us, and I'm sorry to see him go. I wish he could stay forever, but the man has to have his own life that he deserves, and I wish him the best in his retirement. What's that? We tried that before. Not going to work a second time.
Another word about Joe. I've been here for over 50 years involved in education in Old Bridge. He's the best business administrator we ever had.
Absolutely.
Up front with the people and with the board itself. Thanks for your service, Joe.
And I
We
would
really appreciate it. Why don't you stand up? We'll give you a big round of applause. That's it, no?
And another tough job that's going to be up as of January 1st is Marlene Steele, our Director of Transportation. Although she was with us for 4 years only, she's done a superb job, and I wish her well as well.
I think.
Congratulations, Joe.
I think we're all grateful that you pulled a Tom Brady and came back for one more season, and you were great in giving me advice on things in the accounting field and the BA profession. Now I do tax accounting, and I probably won't ever be able to be a business administrator anymore, but it was still valuable, the things that you taught us, and we'll work very diligently to make sure we have try to come close to a suitable replacement. Thank you.
If I could just say thank you for those kind words to all of you. I appreciate it, and I've enjoyed working for the school district for 11 years. It's my hometown. My children went to school here, and I wish all of you the best in the future, too. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Jodry?
Well, yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Congratulations, Joe. Good job, and yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Sulikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Mr. Antono?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
Superintendent's report and progress towards goals.
First, I must start off by, acknowledging the retirement of Joe. He joined our team when we all came on together, and it's been a great team, and I really appreciate his guidance and support and dedication to this community over that time. He's going to be surely missed. For the board members, we will keep you up to date on the process of the interviews and getting like you said, a suitable replacement as soon as we can. We also have the additional challenge of Ms. Marlene Steele retiring as Director of Transportation. If you think bus drivers are hard to come by, getting directors of transportation are even more difficult to come by. So we'll have that challenge ahead of us as well. So congratulations to all our retirees, and we'll keep the board up to date as we go forward. The first part of my presentation tonight is going to be under the area of progress towards goals, and we're going to have Ms. Calandria. She's going to talk to us about some of our mental health initiatives. Dr. Calandria is going to start off from there and carry on with other initiatives that support and go around mental health.
Here we go. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me, and we are here to discuss something that's been a topic in conversation for years now, which is youth mental health. What I'd like to do is just go over a brief overview, because we have been talking about this now for a year. We've had a longer discussion in curriculum meetings. However, just a very brief overview of some of the things that we've seen recently in some of the data nationally here in New Jersey and here in Old Bridge, and then go into some of the efforts that we put into place last year and then going into this year, which we're very proud of. So just some statistics, just again, a brief summary. There's a lot that would go into this, so I don't want to say that this is everything, but looking at some of the reports, so the Mental Health America report from 2020, CDC collects yearly data, and they have now introduced additional data points into their reports. And then Rutgers just put out an extensive report this past year as well, specific to New Jersey. So some of the things that we've seen increases in are rates of anxiety, depression, eating disorders, violence, and suicidal ideation. And this has been found to be the sharpest. All the studies and research is showing the sharpest incline after the year 2011. So a shift at that point in time. And then some of the things in New Jersey that we're seeing are high rates of hospitalization for children who are diagnosed with anxiety or depression, and inpatient hospitalizations associated. Something that we try to come up with, what are the reasons why. We look at research, we have discussions where we do our own needs assessments and reports here in Old Bridge, but some of the things that we try to figure out as to why and what's the cause. So some of the recent studies that are coming out in regards to social media are showing a shift from just correlation to try to say that there is a correlation between the two to actual causation. So it's important to mention this. The Surgeon General actually put out a warning this past year, 2023, with youth mental health and social media. And the causation piece, they found that the rate of social media use amongst adolescents and the decrease in life satisfaction for girls is indicative of girls in ages 11 to 13 as the highest impact, and then with boys 14 to 15 years old. There's strong connection between the use of social media and increased anxiety, stress, depression, body image concerns, and loneliness. They've also found that there's been actual impact on the developing brain during this time, because this is a time where it's a sensitive period with brain development, so on executive functions, things like emotion regulation. There's also an impact on the interpretation of rewards and punishments for the brain based on social media. So there might be a larger dopamine release, for example, from being on a social media app, as opposed to some of the activities that adolescents might be engaged in outside of this. So for that reason, there's a few, and there's other studies that are coming out now, especially in Europe, trying to get around some of the restrictions, but we'll keep on, looking at this information and applying it to what we do here. So here in Old Bridge, we also did a needs assessment for our students, and we looked at our mental health professionals and surveyed them. We looked at a lot of different areas, and just some of the big areas that came up, we've had an increase in chronic absenteeism over the past few years. So a lot of this is related to school avoidance, so an anxiety-based type of issue, an increase in psychiatric clearances, and an earlier onset of these psychiatric conditions. So we're seeing things earlier in age than we had in the past. Some of those needs that we're finding when we survey our mental health professionals, what are they dealing with the most? Anxiety, depression, trauma, emotion regulation, building and maintaining relationships, and then at the elementary level in particular, more behavior-based. So then we go into what is it that we know that students need or youth, adolescents need in terms of services and supports. And what we're finding is that a lot of the services and supports outside of, and this is backed up by research and studies, that the access to services is not always easy to navigate. So there could be barriers with insurance. Student maybe just going and receiving the treatment is a barrier, but then looking at, there's a national survey of children's health. The parents are feeling like it's a very difficult system to navigate, that getting services for their child when it comes to behavioral needs or mental health is very difficult to nearly impossible for a large percentage of the people surveyed. So another part of this, which brings us relevance to the schools and what we do here, is that a lot of the studies are finding that the schools have become one of the primary sources of access to mental health supports for school-age children. A lot of the superintendents believe that this is a big part of it. It's the shift from academics, that we have to focus on mental health as well in order for students to gain access to their academics. And there's been studies to show that students who engage in mental health supports, the success rate is higher among schools, and more than of students who successfully engage in mental health treatment, more than 70% are initiated through the schools. There's different things with the schools that allow for this. So if we think about barriers that are removed, transportation, insurance, things to that nature. So here in the district, we look at the different interventions and goals, prevention and intervention that we try to focus on. We look at this a lot, and not only through our needs assessments, but conversations, anecdotal information as well. So thinking about staffing, how we allocate our staff, where the staff members are, to what trainings that they have, and then evidence-based programs. So what has been shown by research to have evidence to prove to be effective to addressing the needs of the students. So that involves training for our counselors, our child study team members, what we're doing when it comes to risk assessment and response, and then the parent involvement piece and community partnerships. So last year we started with a few different things to implement. We've always focused a lot on our MTSS system and putting in a lot of supports in place for our tiered systems. So looking at assessment and intervention, both academic and behavioral. We've implemented a lot of SEL programs. We still have our attendance coordinators in place, so we continue with that initiative. They're very helpful in addressing the chronic absenteeism rate. Our community resource committee last year helped to narrow down and find which resources in the communities were still accessible and active and aren't, for example, remote when it comes to providing students with services. And then looking at the tools that we're using for risk assessment and response, there are tools that are evidence-based and have research behind them, so we want to make sure we're using things that are shown to be effective in looking at these different areas, especially when it comes to risk assessment. And then we revamped a lot of our crisis, trauma response, and threat assessment. We still have our Effective School Solutions program at the high school, dealing with some of our highest risk students. And then we've implemented a lot of professional development and training for staff and students and parents. Last year we had presentations from George Scott. We would like to continue with those this year. So some of the things that we look at when we're putting these things in place, we know that there's risk factors and protective factors. So we try to embed those into our process, knowing that we're looking at the individual, the family, and then the community and neighborhood. So just briefly to kind of look at that. When we go through our procedures, our readmittance procedures, for example, we make sure we're trying to look at those protective factors when we're putting a plan in place for a student. So this year, for the school year, we're excited to announce that we have been successfully chosen as one of 50 schools in the state for Old Bridge High School to receive a Rutgers grant, which is a 3-year program, and this is in combination with Rutgers in the state of New Jersey to implement what they put out in 2022 as a comprehensive school mental health supports guide. And it's looking at needs assessment, resource mapping, helping us to make sure that we're putting in the highest quality supports and services for the students over the next 3 years. So a lot of training, coaching, consultation. And then some of the other things that we're doing, we have specialized committees formed with our counselors, child study team members, looking at some of those main areas. So school refusal, school avoidance. We have CBT and DBT, which I'll go into a little bit further. Second step, social skills, and then our administrative teams, we have an executive functions administrative team committee and a mental health committee, also working on district initiatives and making sure that we're providing the best supports that we possibly can. We have new this year mental health coordinators. I'll go into that a little bit on the next slide or two. And we're planning to implement climate surveys, which would help us to look at some of the different areas within the schools from the parent, student, and staff perspective. And our goal is to implement wellness centers similar to models we've seen in other districts for the high school, which would include integrative services, wraparound career counseling, things to that nature. And then continuing with our professional development for our staff, students, and parents. So some of our family academy nights coming up, you'll notice that we have some of the topics. For example, executive functions is in October. So based on the needs assessment that we did, we allocated the new mental health coordinator role based on that information. So the elementary one is primarily based in behavior consultation, because that's what we were seeing a lot, split with Salk School, based again on the data that we had. And then Sandburg, we have somebody solely working with Sandburg School and at the high school. Some of the roles and responsibilities of these positions are direct and indirect services to students, staff, PD and coaching, parent training and home visits, and then community partnerships. Some of the professional development that we're providing to our counselors and child study team members this year include strategies. You'll hear about CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy in private practice, those kinds of things. There's strategies that can be used in the schools. It's really to help support students with anxiety. And then DBT is more of that emotion regulation and coping skills. So there is evidence-based. These are, again, showed evidence to prove to be effective, and they're school-based strategies. So we have trainings coming in for that. Then we have, we're working with the School Avoidance Alliance and the Center for Wellness to bring in school refusal and school avoidance presentations to help us with the parents, the students, helping our staff to know what to do when we have a case where a student is not able to come to school due to anxiety-based issues. And then through special services, we have the social, second step social skills program that's going to be implemented K through 8. One of the things that we wanted to talk about tonight, in addition to all of the supports that we're putting in place, is the climate survey. So this is new this year, which we will be continuing to have the discussion with the DEI committee with the Board of Education prior to them being sent out, so we can make sure that there's any feedback or input that we can incorporate into the surveys and the process. But the one that we did a lot of research over the summer, looked at many different platforms and programs. Some of them were very, very extensive, maybe would take too long. We tried to find what would fit our school district. So we settled on one that's evidence-based, supported by the U.S. Department of Education, and it's through PBIS. So there's a family survey with 21 items, and there's various different categories that fall into there. So teaching and learning, school safety, interpersonal relationships, institutional environment, and parent involvement. And then the student surveys, we are sending out through the parents to be able to provide consent so they can share that with the students. So this is one of the pieces that we also want to discuss with the DEI committee about the process and how we're planning to do that. But it's so that the parents have the full copy of the survey and can then make an informed decision of whether or not they want their child to participate. For the elementary, it's only students in grades 3 through 5. There's 11 items, and it's just general school climate questions. For secondary, there's 36 items, so this is grades 6 through 12, and the categories include peer social support, adult social support, cultural acceptance, social civic learning, physical environment, school safety, and order and discipline. And then finally, the staff survey, which is 29 items, looking at staff connectedness, structure for learning, school safety, physical environment, peer-adult relationships, and parental involvement. So with this information, we'll be able to further look at data and see, you know, based on each school. So each school receives an individual link, so we'll be able to connect that with some of the trends or issues that might be coming up, and also positive things. So the current timeline, again, unless this needs to be adjusted after the meeting with the DEI committee and some feedback from them, staff surveys we'd send out October 16th, and then for the family and student surveys, again, sent in a combination. We were aiming to have them sent around elementary conference dates, so if anybody needs assistance with that during that time period, they can receive that assistance through the schools with completing them. So that would be around November 28th. All right, thank you, everybody.
Now under the superintendent's report, just an update on some of our professional development initiatives that have gone on over the course of the summer and into the school year, and our plans throughout the course of the year. And that will be headed up through Dr. Hoker and Ms. Rachel O'Neill.
Thank you. Good evening. Tonight we would like to share with you an update on how we have expanded our professional opportunities for staff and our family education events. I would like to introduce you Rachel O'Neill, who has served as one of our professional development coordinators throughout the summer, June, July, and August, and is a member of our professional team. Our professional development team was instrumental in expanding and coordinating and implementing our summer OBPLA, our summer institute for all of our new teachers and even veteran staffs, and our September in-service. Ms. O'Neill will continue to serve this year as an instructional coach and a PD coordinator, and she's going to share the presentation with you tonight regarding the initiatives that we've completed this summer and that we're planning for the rest of this year. The Board of Education members do have a copy of this presentation in their packet, so you can refer to that if you can't see the screen. Rachel?
Thank you. So as Dr. Hoker said, I'm going to just discuss an overview of the professional development that we offered this summer for the first time ever, the Summer Institute New Teacher initiatives that we offered at New Teacher Orientation, our September 5th in-service, and what we have moving forward. Just to summarize this quote, research supports that effective professional development yields positive student outcomes, and I have no question, no doubt, that the professional development we offered this summer and moving forward will see a positive impact in the classroom. In the spring, we sent out a survey to staff to ask them what professional development they would like to see moving forward, and we also used district data to determine the different topics that we would offer throughout the summer and moving forward. Some of the different topics are listed here: inclusion, positive communication, classroom management, etc. You'll notice in the bottom of each slide there's a picture from one of our workshops this summer and in September. This one is of Canva. Listed the 26 workshops. I'm not going to read them all to you, but if you notice in this picture, we have our teachers working on STEM activities. This was another workshop where teachers were able to utilize different activities across content areas, across grade levels. This is another picture here from one of our workshops called Gamify Your Classroom, where teachers were introduced to engaging ways to use instruction. We had over 16 staff present in the Summer Institute, and we invited 2 doctors from Behavioral Therapy Associates to present on topics such as executive functioning and inclusion. 215 staff filled over 900 seats in the summer OBPLA series. So these are just some quotes from the evaluations we received, but overall, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Staff were exceptionally excited to get takeaway resources from these workshops and to be able to collaborate with their peers. So next, I'm just going to describe a brief overview of the Summer Institute, which took place over 3 days. On August 23rd, teachers in years 1, 2, and 3 were asked to attend. And we also had, we offered all teachers throughout the district limited spots to come see our speaker, Juan Bandana, who I'll talk about in a minute. August 24th, teachers in years 1 and 2 were invited, and August 30th, year 1 teachers were invited. Day 1, as I mentioned, we had Juan Bandana. He was a motivational speaker. He engaged our staff to incorporate those positive connections within the classroom. After he spoke in the morning, teachers in years 2 and 3 went back to their buildings. There was also a bus tour for teachers in year 1. Day 2, where we had teachers from years 1 and 2, there was some mandatory training, and we offered something called WIN workshops, What I Need, covering a range of topics: positive communication, curriculum, behavior management, and real time. Day 3, teachers were provided with instruction from one of our tech integration coordinators who's here on technology tips and tricks, classroom management, and then the teachers were able to go back to their buildings with their mentors, have lunch with their principals, and do some classroom setup and get acclimated to their buildings. We also provided a mentor training for year 1 teachers as well. September 5th, Mr. Cittadino kicked off our day back with an engaging and uplifting keynote address. And following that keynote address, teachers had the opportunity to choose over 57 workshops. Again, the topics range from executive functioning to inclusion, best practices in the classroom. There were also some mandatory workshops based on the new curriculum that we have in our district, such as StudySync and Wonders. Some plans that we have for future development and new teacher initiatives. We have instructional coaches, as Dr. Hoker mentioned. I'm really excited to be part of that team. We have new school improvement roles, school improvement panel roles within each building. We're bringing back the model classroom where teachers can go in and observe best practices within the classroom. We're offering OBPLA workshops, And we have over 7 Family Academy nights, and the topics are listed here. The next one is October 3rd on executive functioning. We couldn't have done everything without our presenters. We had over 42 staff present these workshops. And as a quote that I had on the slide earlier, said the best professional development is the teacher down the hall. And undoubtedly, the fact that we have our own educators presenting to each other and collaborating, that has such an impact, and it's really great to have teachers leave those workshops with practical applications. So these are all the presenters we'd like to thank. And a special thank you goes to the Central Administration administrative staff, the OB Tech Department, and the summer OB-PLA coordinators, one here. A lot went into the before, during, and after of all this professional development. A lot went into behind the scenes, and we couldn't have done it without everybody. Thank you.
I just have to clarify what the bus tour is, because I'm sure there's a lot of people sitting out there saying, why are they taking anyone on a bus tour? We started the bus tour a few years back during one of our in-service days, and we called it the Old Bridge Backstage Bus Tour. And I don't think we even realized the value and importance of it when we first set it up. And as it evolved, we decided that it wasn't just for staff on an in-service, but it was very important for our new staff to participate in this bus tour. So what we do is we actually load up a school bus with all of our new hires, and we take them on a tour of Old Bridge. And we give them history of Old Bridge, lots of interesting facts that they didn't know that we've researched and found over the years. We show them the communities that our students live in. We had, when we initially started it and we took some of our veteran staffs, we had staff members that have been here for 25 years and had never been on one side of the town because they were always in one building. So it was very eye-opening to them how many highways we have, how we have some schools that are near the water and some schools all the way on the other side out in the country. So even explaining and showing where some of our schools are and why we might have a snow day, and they're looking in another area saying, why are we closing school? And we show them when there's a foot of snow and there's literally no place to park in this particular community, we can't go to school. So things like that, showing those environments where our students come from and the schools, and each one of them, we talk about our mascots, we talk about who's in those buildings. It's been really beneficial. We usually stop at some of our community supporters. We've stopped at, I'll give Giuseppe's a shout out, places like that, and even into the schools, and the principals will come out and say hello, so they get to put faces with some of the environments as well. We reference the OB-PLA. That's the Old Bridge Professional Learning Academy. That is something that we started years back, and it is professional development provided by our own internal staff. And when Rachel spoke about that, when we send, and we had many staff that used to go out and participate in activities outside of the district, and it was kind of one and done. So they'd go and they'd come back and they'd get their resources and that would be it. But by hosting these events within the school community, the teacher's down the hall or they're an email away and there's someone that they've established a relationship with, and they can continue that conversation as they're in their classroom. And we have seen that that's very beneficial. And we have expert staff throughout this district where they have even become experts on their own, or we've sent them for training, and you'll see on the agenda where you'll see we post something that is turnkey training. It's so that those staff members become experts and can continue that professional development as we bring in new staff. I'm very grateful for all of these staff members who have been helpful and putting all of this together over the summer, and I do think that the professional development we were able to provide over the summer was really phenomenal, and gave our staff an opportunity to participate in professional development at a time of their choosing, when it was convenient and when they didn't have to leave the students in their classroom, and they could actually attend 2 hours in the morning and maybe go to the beach in the afternoon or vice versa and absorb what they learned, instead of in more of an environment where they have a lot going on in their classroom. We will continue to provide that type of professional development, but this is something that we definitely found beneficial and received a lot of positive feedback. So I thank everyone that participated.
President, that does conclude the superintendent's report and progress towards goals.
Thank you. Any correspondence? Any special committee reports?
Just that October 4th, the DEI committee and the CARE committee will be having their meetings. So come be part of the process and come to the committee meetings to have a voice.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Moving on to hearing of the residents on agenda items only. Moving on to policy item number 1. Can I have a motion?
Jodry will move.
Marqueta will second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. D'Antono?
Yes.
Ms. Jodry?
Yes.
And Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
Curriculum and professional development items 1 through 7. Can I have a motion?
D'Antuno will move.
Jodry will second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. D'Antono?
Yes.
Ms. Jodry?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 7 pass.
Finance items 1 through 12. Can I have a motion?
D'Antuno will move.
Marqueta second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Giordano, just wanted to point out that on resolution number 7, that the district will be applying for stabilization aid as an S2 district that's lost almost $20 million in state aid in the last 5 years. We will be submitting an application for almost $9.4 million for additional state aid that may come this year. However, I don't want to raise expectations because in last year we submitted an application for $7.6 million of stabilization aid, and we received 2.8. So at least by submitting the application, we're in the game to possibly get additional state aid, stabilization aid. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. D'Antono?
Yes.
Ms. Jodry?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
No for 9, yes for the rest.
Resolutions 1 through 12 pass.
Nothing under athletics this week. Non-certificated personnel office item number 1. Can I have a motion?
Jodry will move.
D'Antuno will second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. D'Antono?
Yes.
Ms. Jodry?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Giordano?
Yes.
Resolution 1 passes.
Non-certificated personnel operational items 1 and 2. Can I have a motion?
D'Antuno will move.
All right. D'Antuono, Weber. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. D'Antono?
Yes.
Ms. Jodry?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
And Mr. Giordano.
No for 1, yes for 2.
Resolutions 1 and 2 pass.
Non-certificated personnel other items 1 through 10. Can I have a motion?
Marqueta moves it.
Jodry will second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. D'Antono?
Yes.
Ms. Jodry?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
And Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 10 pass.
Certificated personnel items 1 through 14. Can I have a motion? I'll make the motion.
D'Antuno will second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Ms. Jodry?
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta?
Yes.
Mr. Slade?
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski?
Yes.
Mr. Weber?
Yes.
Ms. D'Antonio,
Yes.
and Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 14 pass.
Non-certificated personnel transportation items 1 and 2. Can I have a motion?
Marqueta moves it.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Marqueta,
Yes.
Mr. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber, Ms. D'Antonio,
Yes.
Ms. Jodry,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 and 2 pass.
Transportation item number 1. Can I have a motion?
D'Antonio will move.
Slade will second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Marqueta,
Yes.
Mr. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. D'Antonio,
Yes.
Ms. Jodry,
Yes.
Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Resolution 1 passed.
Supplies, equipment, and services items 1 through 6. Can I have a motion?
Jody will move.
D'Antonio will second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Slade,
Yes.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber,
Yes.
Ms. D'Antonio,
Yes.
Ms. Jodry,
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta,
Yes.
and Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 6 pass.
Miscellaneous items 1 through 4. Can I have a motion?
D'Antonio will move.
Jody will second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Solikowski,
Yes.
Mr. Weber, Mr. Ms. D'Antonio, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Ms. Jodry,
Yes.
Mr. Marqueta,
Yes.
Mr. Slade,
Yes.
and Mr. Giordano.
Yes.
Resolutions 1 through 4 pass.
No items under board secretary and board business. Moving on to hearing of the residents on any school district issue. Hearing of the residents on any school district issue. Oop, Mike, sorry.
Good evening. Dan Finney, Aberdeen, father of 5, retired military. Policy 5756 is flat out harmful, not only to the 99%, but also to the LGBTQ community. Worse, it is really only about the T in these policies. We have never had people from the other lifestyles asserting that they need to use the bathroom of the opposite sex. This creates division within the LGBTQ community as well as the rest of the students, drives a wedge between parents, teachers, and administrators, and will alienate some kids from their parents. Furthermore, as the obvious harmful consequences manifest themselves, as they absolutely will, these policies will begin to be viewed through the lens of New Jersey child endangerment laws. And then people will ask, who were the adults in the room, and why didn't they protect these children? Policy 5756 creates special rights with no physical or biological basis for these outrageous accommodations. We have a mountain of laws and policies affording opportunity, special needs, equal protection under the law, anti-bullying, discrimination, and more already. If you want these kids to fit in and thrive later as adults, get rid of this policy, which is within your control. In the military, the most basic and important concept drilled in during boot camp is to break down all these barriers and differences to train young people to function as a team with respect. They do the exact opposite of what these radical liberals are trying to do, and for very good reason. Now, how in the world did such a policy get adopted? Who would knowingly vote yes to such a radical attack on parental rights, modesty, and common sense? I don't think any of you would, and your predecessors probably didn't either, because this was revised and slipped in quietly and deceptively labeled as mandatory. So it was rubber stamped and all but forgotten until the next part of the agenda, the curriculum, guidance was rolled out. Nobody with a shred of morality or conscience would have voted to adopt this knowingly. If you go along with this, you are complicit. If you are not willing to stand up against this to protect our children, what would you ever be willing to stand up against? I implore you to rescind policy 5756. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Lorenzo Muniz, Old Bridge. I think policy 5756 is confusing. It puts the teachers against the parents. And I think what would be more productive is have a policy that has the teachers and the parents come together to help guide the kid through whatever they're struggling with. I think that these teachers and parents should come together and help these kids build their identity on a firm foundation. That firm foundation is Jesus Christ. That is the only way you're going to eliminate confusion and depression. Repent and believe the gospel. God bless.
Hello, I'm Stefano. I'm Lorenzo's brother. I'm from Old Bridge. Same song and dance. So as I speak tonight, I look to address not those who are too far on one side. I'm looking to address those who are on the fence. Funny story about a fence. One time a man stood on a fence, and on one side there was the idea that you could have as much pleasure as you wanted. You could even be your own God, as advertised. On the other side, there was honesty, integrity, and humility, where people had to remain humble. So the guy looks to the side, and goes, that's a lot of pleasure over there. And looks to the other side, and goes, maybe there's something to that honesty thing. So the guy ponders back and forth, back and forth. Eventually the devil shows up, and the devil says, all right, hop in, it's time to go. The guy goes, hey, wait a second, I didn't make my decision. The devil says, hey pal, I own the fence. The problems here we're all discussing, LGBTQ, mental health, all these issues come from the same root. They're confusing on purpose. There's money in confusion. What is the solution to all this? The truth. And the truth is simple. So what is the truth? Well, Jesus said, I am the truth, the way, and the life. By repenting of our sins, we are forgiven, and because Jesus died for us, we get to spend eternity in heaven. Quick fun fact about heaven. Do you guys know that the streets in heaven are paved with gold? All right, not good enough? Do you know that everyone in heaven, nobody drives like they're from New Jersey? It's pretty good for me. I'm going there. So again, the solution to all this. Repent and believe the gospel. In closing, Father God, thank you for having everyone here today. You had everyone here at the exact time, in this exact place, and it's part of your plan, Lord. I pray that those who are on the fence and those who are going to make a big decision, that they would walk with you, they would trust in you, and that they would make the correct decision. In Jesus' name,
Sorry,
amen.
nope, sorry, we can't do that. Nope. Sorry, anyone else?
I'm out.
No, I'm sorry, this isn't church. We gotta keep it on school district issues, I'm sorry. Yeah, so anyone want to comment?
Since we're going through last year's greatest hits, I wanted to just remind everybody that we have a great social media.
Can you just state your name for the...
Oh, I'm sorry, Scott Mazzella, Public Relations Director and teacher at Old Bridge Township Public Schools. I just want to remind everybody, we do a lot of awesome stuff here in Old Bridge, no matter where you go to the bathroom. You could check it all out at Old Bridge TPS on Facebook and on Instagram, and at the bridge actually the _ Old Bridge TPS. Oh, that's the Instagram one. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Facebook and Twitter, if however long we have Twitter. That's at Old Bridge TPS. Old Bridge is, excuse me. Old Bridge does amazing things. I'm a teacher in the district. I was a student once in the district. Check it out. We have a lot of awesome stuff. You're gonna love it. Okay, and you'll probably want to have all your kids go here because it's so cool. All right, guys. Thank you. We'll see you next month.
Start off right. Good evening, everybody. I'm Kim Lindley. I'm a former school teacher, parent of 2 children, and a former, I just said that, taxpayer. I'm here because the children are a blessing from God. And also, as a teacher, as a parent, you're supposed to assess daily of how your student is performing in her work performance, social, and communication is key. My desire as a teacher was to inspire each child. Each child learns differently. Each children of your own are different. 2 of my children went through this school, 1 no problems, 1 had some challenges. I spoke up for my child consistently, and I was so grateful to God that I knew the rules, I knew what was going on, but the point I'm trying to say why I brought that up is that child is branch manager of a credit union, and she's 25. So she succeeded despite the odds, despite what she looks like, despite all her school phobias, despite her special needs, because special needs are not they don't always see to the eye. They're in a mental, emotional state. As a parent, I'm emotional. As a teacher, I'm emotional. I got into that job because I loved it. It was a career. It was a passion. I speak here to stand for children that can, parents that can't, and to realize that each child is an individual, different. We all learn different. And the point of my story, my daughter, was that she was one way. As time went on, she turned out to be a productive adult, living on her own at the age of 22. I want to thank you for this time. I want to thank you for your consideration. I know 56, 57 is a difficult task, but not really. Because if you take a look, each student is different. And the communication between a parent and a teacher is significant. And that keeping clear, concise communication lines is it. And we can come to a conclusion if we focus on the child and listen. So I want to thank you for this time. I wasn't prepared, as you can tell. It's not a classroom, but I want to thank you. And I hope you keep our child in focus in God. Amen.
Mrs. Lindley, it's good to see you again. You did say you were a former taxpayer. How did you do that? That's what we all would need to know.
Hi, my name is Alice Marie. I am from Coltsneck Township. I wanted to talk about Policy 5756 and how it is damaging to children. I wanted you to see if you would consider repealing it because of what Hanover is doing. I'm sure you're all familiar about that. I think it's damaging because we just talked about mental health and we talked about brain development and how a brain is not fully developed until you're really 25 years old. So some of these policies are coming into place from above and, from the state, and really nobody has really looked at it on what it is causing. My story is that I was a tomboy as I was a child, and I can even go back further than that, having some trauma even before 5 years old. And if somebody came in and told me I was identifying with boys, I was playing with boys when I was really little because the girls wouldn't play with me because the teacher told them I was an animal. So anyway, point being that I would not have been sane. Do that? Okay, so it's just very confusing, and being a tomboy or being in these situations are normal. They're normal. Somehow there's a narrative that came down that is very deceptive and saying that these things are, maybe there's something wrong with me. Maybe you'd feel better if you were a boy, if you were a girl, and vice versa. There's a lot with social media. We heard this also in the presentation, how it is affecting children. And we're seeing that a 3,000, 4,000% increase in some of these mental health issues from the social media. So this narrative, what happens is that people go down this road and then they actually believe that they can change their biology, which you can't change if you're born with X's and Y's. And it's a natural thing. You can't change it. So to do that, people are saying, well, maybe I was born wrong, something was wrong with me. Even Chloe Cole, who is a detransitioner, says that she felt she had a man's brain. And people are confirming this. Teachers are saying, well, that's not my job to tell somebody that they're doing something that they believe. And I think it is the job as teachers. But going down this path, let me just explain. People are then taking puberty blockers and hormones, and these can cause severe damage, bone density issues, heart problems. Take a look at Sweden, who has fast-tracked this for years, and they're going back and saying maybe we better rethink this, because kids in California, and it's coming to New Jersey, have been getting double mastectomies, and at 13, Layla Jane, Chloe Cole, 15. So I think confirming this narrative is very dangerous, and I happen to be a teacher in a high school, public schools, and my rights as the Constitution, the state Constitution in Article 1, say that I have a right to practice my religion in a way that my conscience allows it. It also says that in the public schools, I should not be denied a civil or military right. And I believe that you're looking at all sorts of discrimination through teachers, through women's sports. Imagine a child who plays soccer with another boy and ends up getting, their leg broken because the girls are 2/3 of the strength of a man. So I think there's so many things that are in violation with these policies, but especially for the teacher or people to affirm that a child is going in that direction. So if you had a child who was going to jump off of a building and you were trying to stop them, or you weren't trying to stop them, would you say that that's none of my business and allow them to do something that's harmful? We're seeing the studies, like I said, in Sweden. We're seeing people like Chloe Cole and many people, up to 10% now, detransitioning. And by the time students are 18, they say 88%, according to the Toronto 2021 study, are coming back to their birth gender by 18. So there's a lot of confusion, social media, and I think we should really take this, get rid of the policy and see what's happening before affirming these things. Thank you so much for your time and your commitment to the schools and to the children.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Carolyn Mack, and from Matawan. I just wanted to real quickly say that I was at the Hanover School Board meeting a week ago yesterday, and very well attended. I think there were about 250 to 300 people in the audience, a lot of school board members from across the state. Every one of them opposed to 5756. I would guess 95% of the audience also opposed to 5756. A lot of very logical and thoughtful comments from the audience, from science, from some of the things the lady just before me was referring to with regards to detransitioning that's happening. just very, like I said, very persuasive, opposed to 5756. I'm also opposed to it. I'm here because I'm hoping if and when it comes up for a vote for you, that you will also repeal it like Hanover did. And I think that it's a travesty that our Attorney General misled the school boards across the state into thinking that that was a mandatory policy rather than a recommended policy. Also, I don't know if you saw it, but Monmouth University did a poll in September and asked parents about the gender identity teaching. And the polling revealed that they believe, a majority of parents agree or believe, that the use of bathrooms and participation in sports should be based on gender, not a fluid and changing gender identity. 77% feel that middle and high school should be required to notify parents if their child wants to begin identifying as a different gender. And I want to say, I don't think 5756 brings a feeling of safety and security to the classroom. And now, because of the policy, boys can use girls' restrooms, play girls' sports, use women's locker rooms. This has caused angst and stress for a lot of girls who are now afraid to use the restroom while they're in school. And I'm glad it wasn't that way when I was a kid in school. That certainly does not create a good learning environment for children, especially for the girls, if they have to go to the bathroom and they're afraid to use the restroom. So anyway, I just want to encourage you. I hope that you'll stand up against the 5756 policy. I think very clearly it is not a good policy. It is not conducive to learning. It does not keep all children safe. It is not an equal protection for all. It's giving special rights to a very, very small segment of our schools. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Andrew Lewis, OBEA, and since tonight's an away game, I live in Jackson. So if we're talking about policy, I'm looking at policy 0167, and I believe that was up for discussion about a year and a half ago maybe, to revise that policy. I don't know if that ever was revised, to allow either employees and taxpayers only to speak at the meetings, or it might have been non-residents get 3 minutes instead of 5. But if we're looking at policy again, if the board could revisit policy 0167 to allow the opportunity primarily for residents, taxpayers, and staff to be the ones who speak. Thank you.
Oops. Anyone else?
Hello? Okay. Hi, my name is Caleb Hartman. I am a lifelong resident of Old Bridge, New Jersey. I was raised here, my dad was raised here, and my grandmother chose to start her family here. I'm here to urge the Board of Education to rescind policy 5756. As someone who was personally at the Hanover meeting, I was blessed to meet people and regular citizens who stood up and opposed 5756. I speak here today to let you all know that the protective policies you have in place don't truly protect anyone. I'm sure many of you are aware of the Brown versus the Board of Education's verdict, which believed separating and protecting some students over others was the wrong thing to do. There can be no separate and equal. In the time of this case, obviously, the context was segregation. It stopped people of color from attending certain schools and having certain opportunities. But now we live in a world where the opposite issue is true. Apparently, the government of New Jersey believes that there's some people who deserve extra rights than what's guaranteed in our Constitution and Bill of Rights. And some people need individualized protections from discrimination that puts them beyond potential parental safety nets. But as a teenager growing up in Old Bridge, I am here to make sure everyone's treated equally, that we have learned from some other people's mistakes by not putting our children in situations where they could be harmed. Now, many people would like to tell you the opposite, that providing additional protections for trans students will be saving them from some serious harm. But unfortunately, people who transition from their biological gender already have a higher suicide rates than many other sexual identity minorities, even in places like Sweden, where trans support and acceptance is common. In conclusion, we, descendants of pioneers and leaders who overthrew a government just to have our own freedoms, have just contented ourselves to listen to whoever's in power. So I encourage you all to speak up and be a difference to our next generation, who are growing up in a confusing world in chaotic times. Only we can change the future for our next generation. Thank you all so much for everything you guys have done.
Hi, my name is Carol Adeo. I'm from Bedminster, New Jersey, but I proudly been teaching here for the Old Bridge Township Public Schools for the past 19 years. And I just want to say thank you to Central Administration, because you have provided a family with all of the staff and with all of the students. We are one here. And really, our job here as teachers, and I myself am a mother, is to support every single child, every single need, every individual need for all children. So Old Bridge, diversity, equity, inclusion, oh my goodness, we stress it in the classroom. We accept everyone in the classroom. And again, we're not in my classroom alone, we're a classroom family. So that means just supporting everybody. Everyone's own identity, their individuality, and loving just the whole child and helping them achieve success. So thank you, and Old Bridge proud.
I'm Savannah. I've been active in this community since I was little, and I would like to address policy 5756. So this policy was created to, supposedly ensure safety of children in schools and classrooms, and in doing so, teachers are obligated to keep certain students' chosen identities confidential, so in case the parents don't approve. And it seems that this policy presupposes that teachers inherently know how to deal with someone else's child. They haven't raised the child, they haven't birthed the child. Growing up and going to school, my parents knew me better than my teachers ever did. They knew how to deal with my struggles. They taught me right from wrong. And I think that is important when looking over this policy. And also, the truth is simple, and what God has made, no man can change. So if someone identifies as something that they were not born as, that's based on a delusion and a lie. And children are very impressionable when they're young, and teachers should not incentivize or encourage that lie that they think they are. And when a child struggles with gender dysphoria, they look in the mirror, they think they were made as a mistake. And any teacher that encourages that by calling them their preferred pronouns, incentivizing that they were born as a mistake, has no responsibility, should not have the privilege to be responsible over that child in the classroom. Because God looks at every child as valuable and precious in his eyes. And love is sacrifice. Love is laying down your own needs for someone else, denying yourself. Love does not rejoice in iniquity or lies, but love rejoices in the truth. It is long-suffering, it is sacrificial, and that is the exact love that Jesus showed, dying on the cross for us. He died for every one of us. He loves these children, and he hates that people are taking advantage of them and lying to them, and I would like for you to be aware of that looking over this policy. So thank you for listening.
else? Okay, closing hearing of the residents. Old business, in terms of the policy, I am aware of it, and Jay Slade is the chair of the policy committee, and we are planning a meeting. It's it's beginning of the school year, so now we're scheduling everything back, and right, that's what we'll be doing sometime this
Yes,
month.
we're gonna be scheduling a policy committee meeting. We'll be setting out some dates. We'll coordinate with our attorney, and we'll make that announcement to the public.
On a lighter note, once again, don't address me as honorable if you send me mail. I'm a regular person. All right, any other old business?
Actually, so I have a question.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask privately, but I think I'll make it publicly. We have some open house dates coming up. I just want to ask you guys, something new is this Family Academy night that's a part of the open house, which I think some parents just want to know what to anticipate for the Family Academy nights. I know we're having it at Salk, so I had a few questions. My wife asked me, I had no clue, so I figured some other parents would want to know what to anticipate.
So during our open house presentations, the principals always make a brief presentation to the parents prior to them going in and seeing the teachers. This year we've, I'll say, expanded that a little bit. Every open house we've scheduled at the same time. So for each evening, and the high school is tomorrow, the Parent Academy is from 6 to 6:30, and then from 6:30 to 8:30 is when the parents will go in and visit the classrooms where the teachers are. During that Parent Academy, the Family Academy, the principals will be going over consistent presentations. They're addressing attendance. They're addressing who to communicate on what issues. There's a series of topics that they will be covering so that our district message goes out at the same time during open house. And I said they're all at the same time. Elementary is 6 to 8, is 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. They need a little bit less time to get through all of the classrooms. So the Parent Academy is at 6 to 6:30 in every location. And then the middle and high school is 6:30 to 8:30 for their teacher presentations, and elementary is 6:30 to 8.
And just so there's probably less confusion if you understand, Parent University was always something in the district. We did it one night of the year, and through the strategic planning meetings, it was brought to us that it's, one, that some parents aren't available for that one night, and there's lots of educational opportunities that come up that might be timely that we want to share with the community, that we would hold multiple nights to educate the community better. And one, the name Parent University wasn't inclusive in itself. I know persons like myself, Mr. Silikowski, we have the opportunities to be guardians for children in our house, but we're not their birth parents, but we do have guardian rights over them. So to be more inclusive, we call it Family Academy nights, because families come in multiple different ways, and that's to be more inclusive.
Any other old business? Any new business?
I just wanted to congrats administration on realizing the value of the bus tour. I know I've already reached out to Mr. Cittadino as a Board of Ed member. I'd like to take that same bus tour. So I believe that's going to be happening soon. So congrats on that. And another shout out to Scott and all the hard work he does on the bridge. I know I've seen even your own kids like, can you put the phone away? But as someone who looks at everything you post or tries to look at most of the stuff you post, I appreciate all the hard work you do. So thank you very much.
And congratulations to our new student representative. Good luck this school year. Thank you.
And Sal, I have something.
Yep.
You want to do? Okay. As part of the Old Bridge Education Foundation, there's 3 dates coming up that I wanted to announce. Our second casino night will be October 19th at 6:30 at the Palms. We had a lot of success last year. October 7th, the Old Bridge Education Foundation is giving a free concert at Lombardi Field, right? Lombardi Field? Yes. Revolver will be the performance. So October 7th, we're having a free concert from 4 to 7 on Lombardi Field. And then finally, the hoodies and T-shirts are out. We've sold a lot. The Ohana Over Everything T-shirts and hoodies. They're on the Old Bridge Education Foundation. I think we're kicking butt on sales. So last year was Everything Under the Sun, and this year is the Ohana. They actually look better in person than they do online. So look to the Old Bridge Education Foundation site to get your T-shirts or hoodies. You'll be wearing them the first day of the month. Right, that's the theme still? Wearing the first day of the month? Yes, for the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business?
Just that reminder, Old Bridge Day is this weekend from 12 to 5 at the Municipal Complex. Old Bridge Township Public Schools will have our usual tent there. We'll be joined by many of the groups within our schools. The Ed Foundation will be there as well. And Kelly Services will be there to, again, if you have time to support our schools and work as a substitute in our schools, it would be much appreciated. It's an important way to staff our schools. So that'll take place from 12 to 5. I look forward to seeing everyone there.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we will not be going into executive session, so we are going to adjourn right now. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Can I have a second?
Marqueta, second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? The board adjourns at 8:46 p.m. Thank you and have a good night.